Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and in today's video, we are going to be going over the good, the bad, and the ugly on the Nissan 300zx Z32. Specifically the Z32, but the Z31 honestly almost fits exactly the same as this. Most problems that the Z32 has are going to also be found in the Z31, and most benefits that the Z32 has will also be found in the Z31. There obviously is a lot of differences between those two. They're a whole different chassis, so they're obviously going to have big differences, but for the most part, they're relatively similar. So you can look at this as a Z31 video if you want to, but it is specifically the Z32. I will most likely be doing a whole separate good, bad, and ugly on the Z31 at some point, so just want to make that clear. Either way, we're finally back. We haven't done a good, bad, and ugly in so long, but don't worry, we're doing them again. I enjoy doing the good, bad, and ugly, so you guys seem to enjoy watching them if you guys are like looking to buy a car, which totally makes sense. I used to do the same thing. If I buy a car, I watch videos on it too, so hopefully I can help some people out. Obviously, these are just like a rough guide to them. I don't own the cars I'm making the videos on, and I don't do like the most deep, in-depth research on these cars for each one of these videos because that would take forever. So what I do is I kind of just give you guys a basis of things to look out for and stuff like that, and then you guys can read the comments and see what actual owners say about what I said. Without further ado, let's get right into it. By the way these vids work, in case you're new here, before I get into it. First up is we go over just everything about the car. That's just things you need to know, like years made, what engine it comes with, the trim level, stuff like that. Then I get into what people tend to do with them in the community, whether it's like drifting or racing them in a straight line or circuit racing, rally racing, whatever it may be. Then we finally get into the good, bad, and ugly, which is pretty explanatory. The good are just points about the car that are great. The bad are not actually bad. I say that all the time, and people actually get so stupidly angry and think that I mean like they're actually bad things. They're just things I would keep an eye out for if you are going to look for them. They might affect you, they might not. And then the ugly are things that are just actual problems. And then at the end of the video, I give you guys my opinion on whether or not I think you should buy the car, depending on the current situation you're in. Without further ado, let's go right into it. Alright, so like I said, the first thing is that we're going to be talking about everything that you need to know about the car, and we're talking about the 300zx here, so let's go over that real quick. First up is the years made and the generation. Well, it was made from the years 1990 to 1996, and it is the third generation of the Nissan Fairlady Z, or Datsun Fairlady Z. Over in the Americas, they were never called the Fairlady Z, so just Z cars. I know it's kind of confusing, but the first gen was the S30, which was a 240Z, 260Z, and then 280Z. Second gen was a 280ZX, which was, I think, the S130, and then it was this one, was a third gen, along with the Z31. They're technically the same generation. I know it's really confusing, trust me, it confuses me too. But next up is the trim levels. There's a lot of them, so let's go over them. The base, the GL, and the GLL, which is a stupid name for a trim level, all come with the same motor, a 3-liter V6 making 222 horsepower. They obviously do have differences in the cars, but I never go over those very small differences. The only differences I usually bring up is the engines, and so if the trim levels come with the same engines, in my opinion, they're pretty much the same, because let's be honest, who really cares too much about the little things that those cars might have? But yeah, the next is the turbo model. That's the only trim level that has a different motor, which comes with the same 3-liter V6, but now it has 2 turbos on it, so it makes 300 horsepower. Obviously a lot better. I think this is like a JDM legend. Like the Turbo 300zx should be considered a JDM legend, but nobody ever really talks about them, so I think they're underrated. Either way though, the body styles, the car was available as a 2-seater coupe, just flat out 2 seats coupe car, a 2+2 with T-tops, so it had 2 seats in the front, 2 seats in the back, and also had T-tops, and a 2-seater convertibles, so only 2 seats with the convertible. So if you want the 4 seats, you got to get the T-top option, which is fine because I like the T-tops. I know other people don't. The T-tops might leak, I get that, but the T-tops are baller as hell, so grow up, deal with it, partner. As for the drivetrains, the car is rear-wheel drive only, obviously. As for the transmissions, the car was offered as an automatic or manual transmission, obviously. Do not get the automatic. It's a 90s Nissan automatic. You are just asking for trouble. As for the price, it obviously varies heavily on everything about the car, but I would say on average you could find one from $5,000 all the way up to $20,000 if you're buying just a piece of crap freaking 160,000 mile 300zx. That's just, as long as it's running, you're fine. Then yeah, you can probably find one for $5K. But if you want like a clean example of a turbo model, then you're probably going to be spending upwards of $20K. So that's price varies. As for the reliability and gas mileage, I'm like salivating so much right now, so it's like hard to say words. The car is very reliable, don't get me wrong, if it's been taken care of, but they're so old now, so they are going to have a lot of issues just because people don't take care of their cars. Obviously, if this car was like you owned it when it was launched and then you took good care of it, yeah, it would still be reliable. But just keep in mind, these cars are over 30 years old, man. They're gonna have problems. And the gas mileage is 18 miles per gallon combined, which I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, is pretty bad. That's not good. 18 miles per gallon in a V6 is just, that's like V8 territory. But now let's get into what the community usually does when actually building these cars. As for drifting, it's not as popular as you would think, but obviously people do drift them. They're a rear-wheel drive Japanese car. Almost every rear-wheel drive Japanese car is drifted at some point. It's just really, again, you would expect to see a lot of these at like drift tracks, but they're actually not as common as you would expect them to be. As for the rally / off-road side, it's definitely not seen very often. I'm sure people have done it before, but it's not like a common thing to do whatsoever, which makes sense. As for the street racing, it's also not seen there very often either. I think the reason why is because these cars are kind of a pain to work on, and a lot of the street racing guys are usually doing all the work themselves in their garage, and so they don't want to even have to try tackling that challenge. As for track racing, this is probably its most popular option, but again, they are kind of old, so it's still rare to see them. It really is just rare to see 300ZXs now out and about, whether it be any sort of event. They're just really not the most popular like motorsports car, which is kind of surprising. But as for the stance / show aspect of it, a guy trying to build a car to make it look nice, and that's pretty much it. These are incredibly popular options, which makes me kind of sad because, like I said, these things are little race cars, man. They can handle well. They can be race cars if they want to be, but people just kind of don't even really try anymore, I feel like, and just kind of turn them into like slammed on the ground, cambered out stance cars, which I think does look cool, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I just like to see these things to their full potential more often. But now let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. And again, the way this works really quick, just to go over it, is first I'm going to go over the good, which are things that like a salesman would say to you because these are good things about the cars. It's kind of hard to argue that they aren't. Then we're going to get into the bad, which are not actually bad things. It's just a play on words, okay? It's just kind of like the middle ground area, the area where it's like it might affect you, it might not. Who knows? I'm just going to put it out there, just in you can tell me what you think of it. And then as for the ugly are actual problems that you're going to have to address. So without further ado, let's go right into it with the good. And the first up is the community is great. They're not VQs, they're VGs, I believe. VG? Yeah, VG. They're VGs, but either way, I honestly love the community of the 300ZX boys. They always kind of helping each other out. They're a very small community. Don't get me wrong. They're a very small community, but they're nice guys. They also kind of fit into that same community as like the S chassis and the Skylines too. They're kind of like the same, like 90s Nissan community, and these are kind of the ones that fall into that category. Next up is the aftermarket support. There's tons of aftermarket support for these cars because everybody that buys one modifies it, so of course it's going to be. Next up is the price for a base model is still relatively good. It's a 90s JDM Legend that's like really good looking, and you can still find them for like around the $5,000 to $7,000 mark. That's, in my opinion, very good. Next up is it has a target top. I understand that, yes, the target top does leak, and we'll get into that when we go into the bad section, but just the fact that it does have the target top is cool, in my opinion. I like target tops. Next up is the fact that it has 4 seats. That's freaking awesome. Obviously, we haven't had 4 seats in a Z car since this car. This was the last car that had 4 seats in it as a Z car, which is really cool. Next up is it's an absolutely incredible investment, in my opinion. I know I'm not the smartest guy when it comes to that, but let's be real here. It's a 90s Japanese rear-wheel drive manual transmission Nissan 300zx. If you buy one now and you keep it clean, you keep it running and everything, in a couple of years it'll probably double in price. Next up is the car is a JDM Legend. Obviously that's just kind of clout, but if you care about that stuff, there you go. Next up is the owners that do own these cars say it's a blast to drive, which makes sense. They're 90s Japanese sports cars. Almost every 90s Japanese sports car is fun to drive. Next up is twin turbo from the 90s is just freaking cool. Argue with me about that. Twin turbo cars from the 90s, as unreliable as they may be, are freaking baller. Next up is the headlights. Let me let you in on a little history lesson in case you guys didn't know. These headlights were so freaking cool and worked so well that Lamborghini put them in their Diablo. So next time you see a Lamborghini Diablo, first of all, take a picture of it and send it to me because I love those cars, but also remember that those headlights are from a freaking 300ZX, which is really cool. And finally, for the good is, like, pretty much nobody hates these things. No matter where you go, people are going to be asking you about your car. Car guys are going to love you. Other people are going to love you. They're just a cool car. You know, it's really hard to find somebody that's going to be like, wow, you have a 300ZX, you freaking idiot. You're not going to have many haters with a 300ZX. Now you're into the bad, and again, I just want to keep putting it out there because no matter how many times I do put it out there, people still will think that I'm like bashing on their car when I get into the bad category, even though I'm not. I'm just leaving them here in case it matters, okay? First up is the sound. I put this in every single one of my good, bad, and uglies. I put it here as the first thing for the bad to let you guys decide whether or not you think it sounds good. So here's a clip. Next up is the looks. Again, that's 100% personal preference. I think it looks incredibly good, but you might think it looks incredibly bad. It's totally up to you. Next up is the engine space makes it hard to work on. Obviously, this is a problem for somebody that's like a brand new to the auto mechanics world. Like if I bought a 300ZX, I would probably have a lot of trouble because I don't know how to work on cars as well as other people do. So you know, something like that you just want to keep in mind. If you're a good mechanic, it might not bother you that much, but it will if you're a new mechanic. Next up is the price for a turbo model is kind of crazy. I mean, it's not as bad as a lot of other of the JDM 90s cars, but it's definitely getting up there. Next is it is rear wheel drive only. Obviously, I don't think anybody buying a 300ZX is looking to daily it during the winter, but if for some reason you were, now is your sign to not do that because they are rear wheel drive only. Next up is the cup holders are pretty much useless. You're not putting no Arizona 99-cent half tea, half lemonade bad boys in that boy. Okay, you might be able to fit like a tummy yummy in there, but that's about it. Next up is the interior. It's obviously old. It's gonna have some problems, man. It's gonna be like an old lady. Next up is the T-tops leak and the windows don't work that well. Again, it's old. Things like these are gonna happen. The seals are gonna obviously start to leak. The windows are gonna start to not work. It's obvious, but just wanted to put it out there that they probably won't work properly. Next up is the PCV valves apparently go early. It's not the biggest issue in the world. Obviously, you could definitely replace that if you need to, but it is an issue, and so I wanted to put it here. Next up is the fuel injectors also tend to go early. Even if you do buy brand new fuel injectors and everything about the fuel system is cleaned and nice and pretty much brand new, they still will tend to go earlier than a regular car will, which is a little annoying, but again, not the biggest issue in the world, so I just put it here. Next up is the exhaust manifold can warp and cause the studs to fall right off, apparently, obviously causing a pretty big exhaust leak. It's not fun, especially since it's really big pain to put your hands on the side of this motor, and that's where the exhaust manifolds are going to be. That will not be a fun fix, but the thing is that when I looked it up, it only seemed to happen very, very rarely, so I didn't really want to put it in the ugly because it's just not so common. But finally, for the bad is all the problems that will come with age. So I listed off a bunch of things here, so let me just go off of them real quick. Rust, cracked wires / lines, worn rubber bushings, paint fade, ripped or cracked interior pieces, faded lights, yellow lights, whatever you want to call it. Synchro is going bad. Brakes may be a little bit squeaky. Plastic parts in it, whether it's the interior or otherwise, may be absolutely destroyed. And all things that could be clogged, like fuel pump and any air injection components, will probably be clogged. Obviously that sounds scary, it sounds like a lot of big deals, but those are all like really small, like basic maintenance type of things, and so I just wanted to put them all out there because people should be looking at these if they're going to buy one. Just because the car may have one of these problems doesn't mean it's going to have all of them too, so don't think that just because like if you go to look at it, it has paint fade, it means that all these other things are going to be there. No, it's just one problem that you might have to deal with, but these are like it's going to be almost freaking impossible to find a 300ZX nowadays without at least one of those problems I just listed. But now we are into the ugly, and these are just actual problems. Okay, these are problems that you're going to have to address, or you have to at least think of when going to buy it. First up is the gas mileage. I mean, come on, bro. 18 miles per gallon is just freaking awful for a V6. That's just not good. It is a sports car, and I highly doubt most people nowadays looking to buy a 300ZX are thinking of daily driving them. So I'm sure your guys are going to be fine with that, but just keep it in mind, you know. Next up is the differential and drive shafts tend to go early, which is probably why people don't drift them, if I had to guess. But those are not fun in the slightest bit to repair. They're expensive to replace, and it's not like an easy, it's going to take you some time to learn how to do stuff like that. So yeah, definitely think about that. And next up is the automatic transmission is absolutely useless in both reliability and performance. Sometimes we've talked about older cars and I've been like, yeah, don't buy the auto because it's really bad in performance wise, because that's obvious. But then most of those autos are at least reliable. This one doesn't do that. It doesn't either. It's not reliable and it's not fast. Get a manual, just have more, it's more fun anyway. It's just a better option. And finally, for the ugly, is this car does tend to have tons of wiring issues, which makes sense for a 90s Japanese car. They always have weird electronics, and Nissan in particular is like well known for their really over-the-top electronic wiring diagrams. My 350Z was stupidly wired. It's dumb. I don't know which engineer is in charge of wiring at 90s Nissans or 90s 2000s Nissans, but he should be freaking publicly hanged. He was a bad man. But now let's get into the final thoughts. Do I think you should buy the car depending on the current situation that you're in? Well, I have 4 situations to try and cover everybody's tracks. First up is the regular dude that just wants a daily driver. I'm not talking about you as a car guy that wants a daily driver. No, I'm just talking about the regular Joe Schmo. Like, I'm talking my older sister, right? She couldn't care less about cars. No, this is a horrible idea for you. It is not even, you shouldn't even be thinking about 300zx's as a daily driver if you're just a regular person. It's so bad. And honestly, as for the next one too, the car guy daily driver, it's also not the best idea. Yeah, that's the second category I have here is daily driver, but for a car guy, because obviously us car guys, when we buy a daily, it still is going to be a little bit of fun. We're not going to buy like a regular boring old car, but this car is still not the best idea. If you want a performance Nissan as a daily, honestly, I know you guys are going to hate me for saying this, but get like a G37 or a Q50. I know the community sucks for those guys, but they are better cars overall for like a daily. That's also fun. Do not go with a 300zx. That is a horrible idea for a daily. Next up is for the Sunday cruiser folks, the guys just want to buy it, keep it, hold on to its value, keep it stocked, keep it in the garage, and drive it once or twice a week. This makes sense for sure, especially if it's a turbo model. They're flying up in price. So yeah, if you want to hold on to this car and just have a fun little cruiser on the weekends, yeah, I have no problem with that. I mean, it kind of sucks. I don't like doing that personally. I like driving cars, but hey, I won't judge. And finally is for the race car or project car people that want to buy a race car or a project car. Maybe they already have a daily or whatever. Definitely the best option for you, especially if you buy a base model. These things could be very, very fun, as far as the owners say, at least. It is going to be a problem to work on, but if it's a race car or a project car, you probably don't really mind too much. And so yeah, definitely go ahead, cop one. They have tons of aftermarket support. They can be a fun car. People put LS's in them, and so if you don't want to deal with that motor, maybe put an LS in it and have fun with there too. It's just a really good option for you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video on the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Nissan 300zx Z32. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see in the comment section down below. I think the next video is going to be like a sort of a vlog type of video. A life update on Mark Roden. Maybe. We'll see what we're doing, because I just bought a dirt bike and I kind of want to make a video on it and see what you guys think. If you guys want to see videos on the dirt bike, or if you guys would rather just see videos of me spreading my butt cheeks. I don't know. If you want to see that, I'm gonna have to start an OnlyFans. I'm not doing that. I would never do that in a million years. Actually, I don't know. That's a deep question. Would you guys start an OnlyFans if it meant you could become rich? Like, would you show your booty hole to the camera if you just if you were just like loaded? I kind of think I would, honestly. I think I would do that. As depressing as that sounds, I think I would. That'd be so freaking easy, man. You just take a picture. Like, come on, man. Maybe I wouldn't show my face or something. But either way, weirdest outro ever. If people are watching this video and they don't know me and they're like actually just looking for a 300zx, I'm sorry you had to witness that. It just popped into my mind. But it's a good question, and you know it is. Stop acting like I'm a weirdo. You know you've thought about it before. Cut it out. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see. Let me know what other good, bad, and uglies you'd like to see me do a car on, obviously. And das vidanya. Have a nice night.